So the second part I'm going to read from is the middle of the book, and this is a scene in which Lily and some of her colleagues go to visit some potential sites where they would build some water pumps in more of the rural parts of Togo. I had never been so far west before. Being over 60 kilometers from the Rue Nationale, I considered my village to be a fairly remote place. Still, the villages we visited that day were different. When we arrived at a site, crowds would gradually gather. First came the children, unafraid in their curiosity, until the adults followed, and their presence demanded timidity. The differences were first evident in the children. They were thinner, their clothes were more tattered, and the dirt that caked them was thicker. The first village we went to was more than 10 kilometers from a potable water source. Issa spoke to one of the men who came forward from the crowd to shake his hand. The man obviously understood our reason for being in such an unlikely place. He then went off to fetch whoever it was that had arranged for us to come. Finally, a group of men made their way to the front of the crowd. One by one, they greeted Issa with formal familiarity and bowed slightly as he introduced us as part of his team. I stuck my hand out to shake their hands, and they smiled at us with gracious but serious smiles. Then one of the men began to speak. He spoke anxiously, his voice full of intensity, as Issa translated for us. He said they have no water for drinking or washing in. Issa said, though the man spoke faster than he could relay. He said that the children are too sick to go to school because their stomachs constantly hurt, and they are always sick. He said that the nearest pump is too far away for the women to carry enough water to cook and bathe with every day. There is a river a few kilometers away, but the water is not suitable to drink. They drink it because they have to. The man spoke with anger, with the same disgust and disbelief I was to hear in so many voices that day. There was a level of desperation in his eyes I hadn't encountered before until that moment. How could people be expected to live like this? That's what he was saying. How is this still possible? We listened and nodded and struggled to find the appropriate way to express ourselves. John was the first to speak. It is because of this that we are here. The man nodded. He led us to the site where the pump would be placed, and the crowd trailed behind, now registering why we were there, and the excitement grew as a bit of hope mounted in them. Issa and Napo exchanged a few words when he spoke again to the villager. Do you have a group of people that would be responsible for the maintenance of the pump? Could you begin to raise small amounts of money so that the pump could be fixed if it broke? The man nodded eagerly to each question. Issa reviewed the conditions with the group that now identified themselves as the elders and therefore the spokesmen of the village. These are my colleagues. We have to visit other villages because there are not enough funds for everyone, and based on how much you are in need compared to the other villages, we will decide if we can help you. Do you understand? The man nodded again. It was a scenario that repeated itself in each village, the speeches, the commitments, the moments of confusion that ensued with the arrival, and the time it took to collect the appropriate audience to greet us. So-and-so had to fetch so-and-so, and then he had to gather the others so that the hierarchy of elders was not to be offended. Sometimes they would bring wooden stools for us to sit on, and sometimes they offered us water we had to pretend to drink because we couldn't offend them, although we knew it wasn't safe. Sometimes the women pushed thin and malnourished children forward for us to see. Other villages were different. The desperation had passed over them and had left only doubt and disbelief in our promises that things could change. There wasn't one village we visited that didn't need our help.